All right, so this it's time for our call in the ring for the week, and this week we are going to go ahead and do our year-end awards. Since we do only have one more episode in the season, we're going to go ahead and do our year-end awards now. Everything's kind of winding down. Lots of the major happenings are kind of
Yeah,
winding down. I mean, we'll talk about other stuff when we return from the break if anything really crazy happens, like at World's End or anything like that.
yeah,
Um, but I actually think we might be. I think we're on break that week, but I think we come back like the next week. So, we're going to
yeah.
probably talk about World's End anyway.
I mean, World's End and that first Netflix Raw is going to be in that block too.
Yeah, if we're off, well, I mean, that first AEW Dynamite on Max also because they're
That's
pulling the
true.
trigger on the 1st of January,
Yep.
which is like, hey guys, we're gonna beat them to the punch by 5 days, real quick. No big deal.
Well,
So
I mean, a year is what a year is. If it begins on the Wednesday, it's going to happen regardless.
yeah, yeah,
Like, I
basically.
don't think that was strategy so much as convenience.
Yeah,
But
yeah, like,
uh,
oh, there's not a Monday before there's a Wednesday. Get them,
yeah,
like,
yeah, something. Yeah,
uh, so yeah, so this week we're gonna call it the ring with our awards for the year, and we're gonna go really off the cuff. I feel like, um, especially in this case, like neither of us are really that prepared with
yeah,
awards like already out, but I feel like when you're giving somebody an award, you should be able to give people their flowers without having to go to a committee or think too hard about it. Like if you think who's the best men's wrestler for AEW in a year, you whoever you think, I mean that's who it is. Like who's the first person that came to mind when you ask these questions. So
yeah,
I think we're going to kind of play a little game in that who is the
yeah.
who is this person? So
And going off with what we cover here, I'll cover the AEW stuff, and Aaron will cover the WWE stuff. Since my opinion on WWE stuff probably wouldn't mean much. So,
and I could offer an opinion on AEW stuff, but
yeah,
I'm here to cover WWE, so why not?
yeah.
With that said,
Let's
you know
go with
what?
the big ones first, the obvious first.
Okay,
Let's go
okay,
with
yeah, let's go to
let's
obvious.
go with male and female wrestler of the year.
Okay, okay. So, who's your male WWE wrestler of the year or AEW wrestler of the year, Adam?
Um, it's really close. My heart wants to say it's Bryan Danielson because it's my heart, and I honestly feel that as much as I adore and have great respect and admiration and nostalgia for Bret Hart, I really do feel that Bryan Danielson is the best damn wrestler to ever lace up a pair of boots. I really, really believe that in my heart of hearts, and I was so happy that he finally got to wear that belt, even for a little bit.
Mhm.
But he hasn't been here the whole year, and we're grading on the whole year. In that case, my vote is thrown Will Ospreay's way. I mean, the guy does not miss ever. Even in losses, he usually comes out looking better for it. He elevates everything he is. He comes off this heel run in New Japan, and he comes in as the ultimate baby face. Everybody adores him. I've got to see him wrestle twice live this year, and he is everything as advertised. He is incredible. Now that Danielson is, for all intents and purposes, sort of retired, he's not an active wrestler full time anymore. To me, nobody's currently is better than Osprey, and like it's. I wouldn't say it's not close. There are a couple of guys that are nipping at his heels, but like for my money, he had great matches with Swerve. He put over Swerve to as international champion, to send a message to the boys that nobody should have a problem losing to the world champion, and helped establish Swerve as world champion, probably better than anybody else during that title reign,
Mhm.
including Christian Cage, who's a master at doing that kind of stuff, including Samoa Joe, who he won the thing off of. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think anybody did a better job of making him look like the world champion than Will Ospreay by losing to him clean. He lost to the heel-ish world champion clean to send a message that it's not about ego. He had this great feud with MJF that it was better than it had any right to be. He had that 60-minute banger with him on Dynamite that felt like it it lasted 20 minutes
Mm-mm.
effortlessly. Like it was just full speed ahead the whole time. He helps elevate Kyle Fletcher. He helped elevate Takeshita. He ran it back with Ricochet. Like everything he did this year had a purpose, elevated somebody, and really re-energized the AEW brand in a way that it really needed to be re-energized after 2023.
Yeah.
To me, with Danielson not having been here the whole year and not having that and having that comeback story, but not having any follow up after he got suffocated twice with a bag, I can't, in good conscience, put him in there. Osprey is the choice, and I don't think anybody else even really has a closer year than that at all. Really, as
No.
far as the women is concerned, uh, come on, you know who it is. I know I just said that Danielson wasn't here the whole year, but my heart is with Tony Storm. My heart is always with Tony Storm. She is the best character in wrestling. If Mariah May beat her and hasn't been the same because Tony Storm isn't around for her to play off of. That's how important Tony is to the Mariah May story. Is that she's facing only really now is she 4 months into her reign is she really facing somebody who could conceivably take the belt off of her and Mina Shirakawa, and even then, really, that's not going to happen. It might be Thunder Rosa after that. She just declared herself basically the number one contender. But like Tony, like the women's division is deep, but it feels a lot more shallow in Tony's absence, and I miss her so much. I don't miss too many people in wrestling because the cycles in and out. There's always somebody to fill the void. I miss Tony Storm to the depths of the ocean. And I mean, if I feel that strongly about somebody, they have to be considered as the number one person in their division. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love all Willow has had a great year. Mercedes is finally picking up. Um, I'm really excited about the return of Julia Hart, but she hasn't wrestled all year. You know, uh, Statlander's had a great year, but for me, it's Tony, and can't be anybody else. It's always Tony.
Mm-mm.
So what about WWE?
Okay, so let's see. The men's wrestler of the year for WWE, a lot of people would be like, it's Cody Rhodes. It's obvious. No, it's not. It's Drew McIntyre. It's Drew McIntyre because he and CM Punk put on a feud that transcended the chase for titles. They made a friendship bracelet more important than the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and the Universal title. Nobody cared about those titles. They wanted to know what was going on with this friendship bracelet. Um, Not only that, but then he put CM Punk over in a way that made it look convincing. Which, if you look at these two people physically,
Yeah,
it's kind of obvious that Drew would just shithouse CM Punk. And
he would murder him
yeah.
easily,
And to make it look,
easily.
yeah, and I know he had to use like a toolbox and shit, but first of all, I want to like commend Mr. McIntyre on everything he did in that match with the bumps and everything. Um, he did some bumps that I didn't expect him to do, and he just made it look convincing. He made this ass whooping at the end of this look convincing, and he played the perfect antagonistic heel all the way up until said ass whooping, and he made everybody want him to get his ass whooped.
I would argue that he was so entertaining that you couldn't really call him a heel. Like
I mean,
he was getting lots of
I mean,
lots of
it
support online
maybe he wasn't a
because he
heel
was
to
so
some people.
entertaining.
Let's be real. Some people were supporting him because he was facing CM Punk.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I'm
but
not denying that.
at
But
the
like
same time, he
I
was
saw his online stuff and like, dude, this is hilarious.
oh,
Where
dude,
has
his
this guy been the whole time?
it was insane, dude. Just that feud was easily one of the better feuds of the year, and out of either company. And eh, Drew McIntyre deserves it. He is the best. He is probably by far just the best guy to insert in a feud. I can't wait till tomorrow night to figure out what's happening with him going into
Yeah,
Royal Rumble season and stuff.
yeah,
Um, as far as women goes, this one's way harder.
yeah. It's not
Because
been
we
a
have
banner year for WWE Women's Division, from what I understand.
it. It's harder mostly because there's a lot of really good talent, and they've all been kind of sharing time equally, and there hasn't been really anybody over anybody else to a huge extent. But really, if I have to go with my first instinct, it's Rhea Ripley. She is 100% the most over woman on the roster. Period.
It's not even
Um,
close.
she's one of the few women and the only women's wrestler to ever make it into a Call of Duty game. Um, that in itself is a huge accomplishment over the last year. But we go on a little further and say, um, her her feud with where she's been chasing Liv and fighting with Liv over this last year has been really great. I mean, we all know she can beat Liv up like legit, and we all know it
Yeah,
could happen. Been Liv's just so snaky, and then Dom turning on her. I mean, she was just a crux part of some of the most compelling women's division stuff in WWE this year too. On top of being the most over and probably one of the three most accomplished wrestlers on that roster as far as women go. So yeah, it has to be Rhea. I mean, just there's a lot of choices. I could justify any of them. I don't think I could justify any of them as well as I could justify for Rhea.
yeah.
So yeah, it's Rhea for sure.
What about okay? What about tag team of the year?
Tag team of the year.
Let's just go with there aren't any women's tag teams really in AEW because there's no title to fight for.
Right, right.
So, like, how about for WWE, we can open it up to both divisions? Uh, I mean, that just seems fair since they have them, and if one of
Um,
them, if one of the women's tag teams was to be in your mind, be worthy of it, I wouldn't want to deny that to them.
okay. So here's what I'll say. The WWE men's tag team division has in the last month or so been obviously been being worked on, and they are reviving that division.
Hmm.
But previous to that last month or so, it was kind of a flat, barren shitscape.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the women's side, Jade and Bianca have been dominant all year and have been facing some really good opponents and some really good matches. So, tag team of the year in WWE is Jade and Bianca.
See, this is
No
why.
question.
This is why
I
I said
mean,
that I wanted to open it up just in case, because I knew that there was a chance that this might happen, and I wanted, if
yeah.
you were going to give them flowers, I wanted you to have the opportunity to do so.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
They definitely deserve it as far as best tag team right now. Yeah. The men's division's getting better. A lot of tag teams are returning. We're getting some new packaging and it's ramping up.
yeah,
But as far as tag team wrestling in WWE is concerned, Jade and Bianca have carried it this year almost in its entirety. So they
yeah.
get the nod easily.
So, uh, you're not going to like this. You're not going to like it, but it's the Young Bucks. It has to be the Young Bucks. It's been a down year. It's been a down year for tag teams, but they were the
Yeah.
only ones who were dominant for most of the year. The matches they did have were great. Sting chose them to be his final opponents, handpicked them, and they put on one of the best matches of the year from like a cathartic emotional perspective by putting him over with Darby. Uh, I mean, this is like I said, not been a banner year for tag team wrestling in AEW, which is really.
Mm.
I mean, they're turning it around now, but it's really sad because like that was one of the things that they wanted to build their foundation on. It was very clear from the start of AEW that they wanted to really focus on building up tag team matches as a main event worthy spectacle that they could put on in a main event, even of a pay per view eventually, and
Yeah.
have it sell. Um, they've struggled to do that in the last year or so, but the most consistent team was the Bucks. You may hate them. I know you're not a huge fan of them, but I don't think anybody else really has an honest uh, shot at usurping them from that. Like you can like other teams, but they didn't do as what none of the other teams in the division did as well for as long as the Young Bucks did.
Hmm.
It just didn't, straight up. So like it's the Young Bucks. Clearly the Young Bucks. There's no choice. It's the Young Bucks. I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to call themselves the Young Bucks when they're my age. But uh, uh, I mean, Matt's starting to get a few gray hairs in that quaff of his. I'm just saying,
It's
it's not
true.
like super
It's true.
noticeable, but when they get a close up on him and like you can see it, you can't call yourselves the Young Bucks for too much longer, guys.
Let's see here. How about best up and coming wrestler of the year?
Ooh, this covers all manner of things.
Hmm.
Gosh, uh, now do you mean like now what how would you define up and coming?
I would say, let's say anybody who made a television debut this year in the United States, or
Okay,
maybe not debut on. Well, okay, because I mean, I don't want to. The guy I want to say was on NXT before, so he's technically been on television before this year, but he was in a developmental brand. So
so
I
you're
would
looking
say
at
main roster debut this year,
okay,
I guess.
that limits it for AEW because they don't do the same things that WWE does in terms of
But
developmental
there are
kinds of
people. I mean,
things.
I could name a couple of guys who
I
made an
will
AEW
say
debut this year.
I will say I mean well okay like by that point like they signed Mercedes Monet that doesn't mean that she's an up and comer, she's an
But she's been
established
on a main
veteran.
roster before. Yeah, she's an
She that's
established
what I'm
veteran.
saying, like she's an established veteran. Like um like there were a lot of CMLL guys that I liked. I love Hechicero. Anytime Hechicero is on my TV screen, I pay attention.
Yeah.
Um, there were a bunch of guys who maybe not debuted this year, but have started gaining the momentum. Guys like Kyle Fletcher, especially Kyle
I
Fletcher.
mean, you can pick somebody
Guys
who's relatively
like the
young or new. I mean,
like the Beast Mortos.
that's who
I
I would
feel
pick. Perfectly
yeah,
honest with
like
you.
I we stand Beast Mortos here.
Mhm.
We This is absolutely beast country. Um, but if you're talking about like who has the most upside going into 2025, I mean it's Kyle Fletcher, right? Like
I mean, I would think so. Yeah.
it's either Kyle Fletcher or you can make a case for Danny. You can make a case for Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm going to go with Fletcher simply because he beat Osprey and Okada in a 3 week period. Doesn't
Fair.
get much more of an endorsement than that.
Yeah.
You know, I would go with Kyle Fletcher. Like I said, you know, I was kind of disappointed to see how things turned out with Okada this week, but the dude's a stud. There's no denying that. Dude's a stud. He looks like my nephew if he was 6'4". Uh, shout out to Kalik. Uh, but yeah, like he no that dude is I feel so bad for Mark Davis because he was injured for over a year and essentially like his whole career is gonna be like wasted now, like
Yeah.
because he got Genetti'd.
Yeah, he did. And
he
not to
didn't even get
even.
he didn't get Genetti'd by Fletcher. He got Genetti'd by his own injury. So
Yeah,
like I mean,
that
and
sucks.
what was TK gonna do? Like the dude was he was a can't miss prospect, and you can't wait around for somebody's injury forever. Like
Hmm.
you when you when you have triggers and you have that need to be pulled at the right time, you got to pull those triggers, and they're pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's Kyle Fletcher. Like
Mhm.
he's the can't miss prospect that's going to have a great 2025. Also, Danny Garcia is going to be there, and I'm hoping for the Beast Mortos because I want to, even if it's like a short 2 week TNT title reign, I want the dude to have something. I want it so bad for him because the and Commander. We'll put Commander in that same category because that dude is getting over via nothing but his work
Yeah.
rate. You know, I mean, there
Yeah.
are lots of guys that fit this description. Kyle Fletcher is probably the best example of it, so we'll go with him. But I've got my eyes on a lot of guys who could have a really good 2025 if the creative is there for them.
Mhm. For me, so you remember that you know how earlier we were talking about that baseball signing, and you were like, I'm not gonna say
Yes,
anything. So
yes,
normally I wouldn't give out an award like this because it's like the Madden curse. Like, hey man, that's the best rookie of the year, and then they're injured.
yeah,
Um, but mine, I feel
yeah,
safe talking about because he's already been injured.
yeah.
So my
Well,
up
there
and
you go.
comer, my WWE up and comer, 100% is Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
This
Oh, I thought you
guy.
were. I thought you were going to say Breaker.
No, not Breaker. Bronson Reed. Now, okay.
Mm,
I like Braun Breaker, and I'm glad he's got the Intercontinental title and all that. And I know his gimmick is to, I'm not using my family, but don't fucking lie to me, bro. Okay?
yeah,
You
yeah.
absolutely use your dad and your uncle to get into WWE. Don't fucking lie to me. Okay? Like, I know how
And
this
that's
works, and it's okay.
for
Nepotism is fine in wrestling.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. The point is to not lean on it. You
yeah.
use it to get to walk through the door or to open the door, but you're the one who walks through it,
Yeah.
and
And
he's
I mean
walking through it.
he's walking,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
in the interest of also not jinxing him at all, my guy's Bronson Reed. I mean, okay, so he already has the rookie injury curse taken care of. He's broken his
Yeah.
foot. And that
Yeah.
happened like last week or two, so I'm okay talking about this now. But over the last, like, I mean, dude, the guy basically showed up front. Like, okay, he's been on Raw this year, and like they're kind of pushing him up as a big beefy bad guy, like, and he's strong and he's harmful and he's just a fucking psychopath, and that's great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They've had him going against Braun Strowman. He beat Braun Strowman, and Braun Strowman beat him. Like, I think Braun Strowman took the third match, but like they had a really good like big man feud, but it was just kind of a mid card big man feud, and
Yeah.
then we're kind of ignoring what's going on with him for a little while, and then he shows up out of nowhere and he tsunamis Seth Rollins 7 fucking times.
Yeah.
And suddenly everybody knows who Bronson Reed is. And then he's
Yeah.
the fifth guy for the bloodline at War Games. And I'm sorry, but if you come from like a middling big man feud and then suddenly you're the fifth guy in the main event of War Games, that's a
And then
pretty big step up in 6 months or so. And
yeah.
that's also with having a feud with Seth Rollins, one of the most over people in the company, and the former world heavyweight champion from this year. Bugging, like, they put him in feuds with the big guys. They're putting him up in the big storylines. I mean, and now he's broken his foot, so I can say rookie of the year right there because now I don't have to worry about him getting injured going into 2025. He's already injured. He comes back in 2025. He's probably going to have a way better year, even with only 4 to 6 months of the year than he had this year.
Yeah.
And if not, that'll happen in 2026. I don't think WWE is going to give up on him after one broken foot unless he just really can't do it anymore. And honestly,
Yeah.
the way he works, I don't see him just not being able to do it anymore unless that foot injury is real bad. But I mean, Adam Cole had the worst foot injury I've ever seen on a person,
Yeah.
and he's back. So I have
Yeah.
hope,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, Bronson Reed for sure, out of nowhere, and he's killing a top guy, and then
Yeah.
suddenly it's like, oh, who's going to be the fifth guy for the Bloodline? And it's him, and that was wild. Like, that's not who any of us expected to be their fifth guy. We thought we were going to get another,
Yeah.
another Fatu.
Yeah.
So here we are, man. But yeah, that's my up and comer of the year for sure.
All right.
Oh, that and
I want to add
Vader t-shirt. Vader t-shirt in
Vader t-shirt.
interviews.
Yeah. I
Always
want
extra points for the Vader shirt.
to go back one 1 minute
Okay.
and also add in there Harley Cameron. Harley Cameron, baby. She's gonna have a great year. She's maximizing her minutes all the time. Every single Harley Graham was fantastic. Ah, I'm still shocked that it was Harley Cameron the whole time. I can't believe it.
I can't believe
Uh,
it. Yeah.
Twice. Uh, but yeah, no, Harley Cameron is gonna have a real. I don't think she's gonna win a title, but I think she's gonna be in the mix and heavily featured in the coming year. Because how could you not? She's so entertaining. So I
Oh,
want to put
oh,
her in that category too.
I have got a wild off the wall prediction for her for next year that we're going to talk about next week. There we go.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah,
I'm already, yeah, I'm
we'll talk
already,
about that later.
yeah.
Um. So okay. So how about what was to you? What was your WWE? I mean, I already know this, but WWE storyline of the year.
Oh, we had Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. And I'll go ahead and cover
Yeah.
match of the year too because they're Hell in a Cell was the best match in WWE this year. By
Yeah.
all measures of everything, that match was the best match in the company this year. It was brutal in the best way. Michael Cole prefaced the entire match with this isn't going to be a 5-star classic. It's going to be a knockdown dragout. And not only was it a knockdown dragout, but then Dave Meltzer gave it like 5.5 stars or six and a half
Yeah.
stars or some shit. So it was both things,
It was both
Mike.
things.
Um, so, um, so yeah, I'll cover two awards right here. Best storyline, best match, Drew McIntyre
Yeah.
versus CM Punk, Hell in a Cell. No question. I mean, Cody finished his story this year, and then Drew and Punk said, "Hold my beer."
Well, Punk wouldn't have one, but
Well, okay, Punk said, "Punk,
hold my own tools.
hold my Pepsi." Whatever. But yeah, they were like, "Oh, finish your story. We're gonna make people forget about you over a friendship bracelet,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
The only reason I mean, I like Cody, but the only reason I'm paying attention to him right now is because Kevin Owens is going to give him his best match of the year at Saturday night's main
And
event.
that's saying something. He's had reportedly good matches. I mean, he had
This is his best
a
feud of the year.
widely acclaimed match with AJ Styles. I remember hearing
Mhm.
about like
He's had some great
so.
matches, but Kevin Owens is about to give him his a hate filled
Yeah,
bashing of a match. And on top of that,
storyline
this is
match.
by far his best storyline of the year too. People are like, oh, would he finish the story? I don't care. Kevin Owens is the best heel he's faced this year. Period.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going next year. That's probably going to be the one. We'll see how this plays out for what I do next year. But right now, CM Punk and Drew, their Hell in a Cell match is the best match of the year. So let's go with your storyline and match of the year.
Okay, so match of the year. Um, with respect to Osprey and Danielson, which was otherworldly.
Mm,
Absolutely. For me, my AEW match of the year was the one that I felt most satisfied me emotionally. And that was Danielson winning the belt from Swerve at All In. Like to me, I mean, the fact that it was a 5-star classic is icing. The cake is the moment. The cake is the moment where, after 3 years of being in AEW and sniffing the belt, really close, getting this close to it like 3 or 4 times, with just finally being able to do it on his farewell tour in front of what 50 or 60,000 screaming Europeans
mm-hmm.
was, to me, that I was jumping up and down screaming yes, yes, yes when that happened. I was so tense. I wasn't sure that they were going to happen because I know how selfless Brian Danielson is as a
Mm-hmm.
wrestler, and I know that he would want to put Swerve over. And I was like, no, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. These people came to see you win. Like,
They might
you can't
riot
do
if you
that.
don't win.
Yeah, and these are English soccer hooligans. When they riot, they mean business.
They really riot. It's not like Hammerstein and see,
Yeah,
Punk wins or we riot. It's not like that.
yeah. No, no. It's oof. I
It's
To me
Danielson
that
wins or we're
was
firebombing your house. Like
yeah. To me, that match was the most cathartic moment in wrestling that I've had all year. I was elated. I was overjoyed. I was, running around my house to the point where my autistic son started having kind of a a meltdown because he thought I was upset. Like, when really I was just jubilant. Like, it was that outpouring of emotion. No other
Mhm.
match, there have been fantastic matches all year, up and down the cards, and places expected and unexpected, but nothing made me feel like that made me feel the entire year. That's my match of the year. As far as um, storyline of the year, there are a couple of contenders, um, but ultimately, my heart's with the Hangman, and his feud with Swerve, which is, I wouldn't say ended. I would say it's paused for future. It's like when you stop in the middle of a show that you're binging to watch something else. You can always go and pick that back up where you left
Mhm.
off. They're going to pick that back up where they left off eventually.
Oh,
They
they're
have
never
to.
gonna like each other.
They're
They're
they're in a
never gonna
forever
like each other.
they're in a
Like,
forever feud.
yeah.
But for the way that they handled Hangman, well, first of all, his exit,
Hmm.
to go be a new dad for the second time, take 3 or 4 months off so Swerve could win the belt and everything. They did that pretty well. And then when he came back and he was a completely different person, just we talked a little bit earlier about how he's underrated in terms of like acting in wrestling, which is it's kind of own category because it's its own style and everything. It's not like anybody's going to be winning an Emmy here or anything like that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think back to that promo where he's in the back with all the crates and everything, and he just explained, he doesn't even say Swerve's name, but he lists all of his grievances, and it's like, yes, this is what I've been saying this whole time. Like, he's been right. He's been right the whole time. The crowd did turn on him in favor of the guy who invaded his home.
Hmm.
Adam Page is correct, and you cannot convince me otherwise. And then even though it's not on the record, so to speak, it doesn't count towards the rankings. He finally got one over on Swerve, and then
Hmm.
he's still a wreck. It doesn't it doesn't quell his because because it doesn't count, and B, because vengeance is unsatisfying. That's the whole point, is that
Hmm.
vengeance is unsatisfying. The only way that he's going to know peace is if he does, ironically enough, even though it came from the man himself, and even though that man said it basically as a dig, he does need to let it go. Swerve was right in that he does need to let it go if he wants to know peace.
Hmm.
Like I said, Swerve said that, to get under his skin
Hmm.
specifically, but he wasn't wrong.
And Hangman's
Eventually,
whole thing is to not know peace, so he's
yeah,
not gonna let it go.
he's our anxious millennial cowboy.
Yeah.
Hangman Page is all of us. To me, there are a couple of other contenders, but nothing is more nuanced than the Hangman Adam Page character in wrestling.
Hmm.
And his interpersonal relationships with everybody are elevated because of how he conducts his character. And his feud with Swerve, while not over, it'll never be over until one of them or both of them retires. But as far as it progressed this year, yeah, nothing had me in AEW had me more invested than that. other than, Danielson winning the title. But that was a match and like a 1 month build. This was essentially the whole year. So for me, that's what it is.
Hell yeah. Well, I think right there we're gonna wrap it up. But we appreciate everybody joining us this week, and that was our personal end of year awards for the two
Yeah.
branches we cover of wrestling. I mean, they don't mean much, but that's really what we think about.
Yeah.
About who the best was this year, and we really hope that all those people have really great next year. And we're looking forward to watching and covering more wrestling. Next week we'll have our end of season finale / Christmas special, / holiday thing. Happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, happy Kwanzaa to everybody. We love you guys, and we appreciate you being here with us, and we will see you next week.
Next week. We'll see you there.